Welcome back to Spot On a night in which we want to try and demystify what some words mean in English, especially because over the last few months they've become so significant, Elijah. Everywhere we look, it's all about whereabouts failure. And normally, when you hear anti-doping in Kenya, you hear football, you hear athletics for the most part.
Yes.
But then, this past few months, football has been in the mix for that, and we thought, why not call the men who explain whereabouts for us to understand? So with us in studio is Dennis Kiprop Keitani, who's the Principal Compliance Officer, Standards and Compliance at Adak, that's the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya, and Dr. Martin Yauma, who is the Acting Director, Standards and Compliance, Adak. So, Elijah, we got guys who are in charge of standards and compliance.
Yes.
So if anyone understands what is required, would be these two gentlemen.
Yes.
And Martin and Dennis, I will start with the easiest question. What are whereabouts, and what is whereabouts failure?
Thank you very much, Wakabi, and thank you, NTV, for giving us this opportunity to explain to Kenyans, to explain to the sports fanatics and enthusiasts on issues to do with the fight against doping in sport. And basically, just to start with, these days we don't talk about doping, we talk about clean sports, just to bring out the positive connotation of sports. Basically,
Yes.
It's just to ensure that our athletes have a fair ground and demonstrate their fundamental right to participate in a free doping environment. Just to bring to the attention on what is going on in the country and as far as whereabouts is concerned, this is a situation whereby we have athletes whom we have carefully chosen through a proper criteria, and we have placed them in what we call the registered testing pool. These are top-level athletes, our priority athletes who are elite, and they are performing either at the international level and also at the national level and in the top-tier ranks of the level of participation. And therefore, these athletes are supposed to give us information on where they are. And that's why we are calling it whereabouts. Give us information on where you are training, where you are accommodating yourself, and basically we want to know where you are, and basically we only use that information for purposes that it's meant for. In that, once you are on the registered testing pool, the minimum number of tests that you're supposed to undertake is 3 annually. And we are supposed to come and test you without any notice. That means we are not supposed to tell you that we are coming to collect a sample from you. We will only rely on the information you give us, so that then with that information, then we can be able to appear where you are and request you to give us a sample. And that's basically the whole concept of whereabouts management.
Let's go to something he's spoken about. He's spoken about the athlete tells you where they are. Yeah. Tell us about the system that the athletes use and what are they supposed to let you guys know throughout the year.
Thank you, Okabi. So this is known as the ADAMS. It is the Anti-Doping Database Management System. This is a system that has been designed by WADA. However, it is something that is acceptable by all national anti-doping organizations, including Adak. And athletes are given access to this system. And there is also an option of using a mobile app, just to make it easier for the athletes to access. So this system, once you log in, you have an account. You are required to provide us with your details of where you live, your mailing address, your competition schedule, and your training schedule as well. And then the most important part is 1 hour, a 60-minute window every day where you are supposed to be available for testing. So this is where you had asked the issue of what is a whereabouts failure. So one of the aspects of a whereabouts failure is being unavailable for testing during that 60-minute window. That is one aspect of a whereabouts failure. Another aspect is providing false information of where you might be, or providing misleading information, saying that you will be at point A, yet you know you're going to be at point B. So this system is accessible by all athletes who have been selected to be in the pool, and they have been given access by Adak. Yes.
So when you mention all athletes, are we just talking about athletics? Because I'm not too sure, maybe you can now tell us, whether you've sensitized players in various other disciplines, like in football, because it has been an issue, or we did not know, basketball, rugby, and all these other sports.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. When I say athlete, it is not athletics.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, so an athlete is any person participating in any sport. For athletics, it can be very specific, but an athlete, it covers all sports. And we have sensitized across all sports. This is a requirement. And specifically for the athletes who are going to participate in international events, that is mandatory for them to be educated. So we have cut across. It might be a bit more on athletics, but it is basically because as Kenyans we produce more athletes in athletics, but we have covered proportionally across all sports.
Yeah, and just to add, Okabi, the mantra of the World Anti-Doping Code states that the first experience for any athlete to interact with an anti-doping program should be through education rather than any other program on anti-doping. That means before we come to test you, we have to create awareness, you have to be sensitized, you have to understand the obligations and regulations as far as anti-doping is concerned. This group of athletes whom we are talking about, the registered testing pool athletes, they are our priority athletes, in the fact that before even we ask you to provide the whereabouts, once we select you, we will reach you, we will be able to educate you, we will be able to take you through all the anti-doping program, your responsibilities on what you're supposed to do. We will open an account for you. We will take you through how to navigate through the account, and we will provide our details to you so that in case you find problems with navigating through the system, we can support you as much as possible. So these are athletes whom we have made ourselves available to them to support them as much as possible so that then they don't find themselves in problems of whereabout failures. Yeah.
So how does one qualify, how does one qualify to be in the RTP,
yes,
the registered testing pool? How are they selected?
Yes. First of all, the World Anti-Doping Code has set out the criteria for us to use to select an athlete to be in the RTP. Of course, we have the individual sports and group sports. Individual sports, probably like, for example, athletics, we go with the rankings in terms of performance. If you are a top-level performer, you're performing well in the international competitions or national competitions, then probably we can select you to be in the RTP. And we do that in conjunction with the federation. So we liaise with the federation, we get the database of athletes, we get information on their performance, and from there we can be able to do our selection. For team sports, basically on performance, if it's team sport, for example, football, if you are a top scorer or you are best in the team, we can also do the same. There are also other athletes whom we get intelligence in as far as use of these substances is concerned. If we get enough intelligence that you might be using these substances, we can actually select you to be part of the RTP. But also we also have a program on athletes' biological passport, whereby when we take your samples and they go to the laboratory, and we have a team of experts who normally look at these samples, and there are traces of microdosing of these substances within a period of time, we can actually look at that and say we would like to have these athletes in the RTP. But also we have a large pool of athletes whom we are in what we call the monitoring pool, okay? And if you are in the monitoring pool and we check that probably you qualify to be, you are almost, getting there in terms of performance, or you exponentially perform from nowhere, you are shooting to higher levels, that can be also a good platform or criteria for us to be able to take you to be part of the RTP. So basically we look at different factors. We do risk assessment, we assess the sport, we assess the performance, and from there we make a very informed decision on why you need to be in the RTP. And actually that's a priority for an athlete to be in the RTP, because we are proving to the world that you are a top-level athlete, and once you become a top-level athlete, actually we need to exude confidence in the world that you're performing clean. And the only way you can exude that confidence is to demonstrate to the world that you are clean by testing you.
If I may add on that as well, this information of the RTP athletes is readily available on the Adak website, and some of you might have been able to access it and see how comes it has a lot of athletes from athletics. Some of the criteria in the World Anti-Doping Code is they also assess a sport in your specific country. So as Kenyans, you produce a lot of athletes from athletics. So a huge proportionate of that number should be from athletics. It is a requirement. And also something else is, sometimes you get to hear of athletes who are suspiciously missing in action. Someone is also saying, I'm retiring because of an injury and then I'll come back later. We also look at some of those individuals, and because this is suspicious behavior.
When you put an athlete is in the RTP, do you inform them? Do you then train them? Like, what are the steps once we put Elijah? Say, Starboy is in the RTP. What kind of training does he get?
So, number one, you have been identified to be put in the RTP. You must be informed in writing. That is procedure.
Yes.
So you will receive information that you have been informed. You will receive a detailed write-up of what you're supposed to give, the details you're supposed to give, and the timelines. And then after that, you will be taken through training. This is now mandatory before now you start submitting your whereabouts. So that we try to avoid you being sanctioned for something that you could have easily avoided.
Okay. So you say you educate first before you test.
Before we test.
So if I today go to a golf course where there's a top championship that is taking place, and I ask any golfer, have you been educated by Adak? Will they come out and say yes?
If that golfer is in the RTP group, definitely we have educated them not once, not twice, more than two times.
So ignorance is no defense.
Ignorance here is no defense, because those are our top level athletes, and the World Anti-Doping Agency normally monitors the implementation of our education program to ensure that we have reached those athletes as many times as possible. They have laid out the criteria that they have also given out all the topics that these athletes need to be educated or to be sensitized on. And therefore, this is a situation whereby we have reached all the athletes in the RTP and educated them. And what we are just saying is that probably when we reach you at first instance, maybe you might not get all the information that you need. And that's why we create forums, as many forums as possible. We mobilize them together to conduct structured workshops. We reach them through outreach programs. And even we have changed our model of education in that we are even going into their camps and their homes. You will find that most times we will find our Adak educators camping in athletes' homes, sitting them in the environments that they are familiar with, to be able to give them the information as much as possible. And we are encouraging them to give us as much information as possible. We have even started a WhatsApp group for those athletes in the RTP. Even today I updated that WhatsApp group and saying, guys, if you have anything that you need to know, please let us know. I've even told them I will be here They need to tune in and listen to me
Yeah.
and get information, because this is a platform where information is being shared.
So now, one of the reasons why this has become a big deal is because we had quite a number of footballers get themselves in Adak's crosshairs, yes? Rooney Onyango, Benson Omala, Charles Ouma, Wilson Kamau, John Collins Njuguna, Benson Ochieng Oluoch, Weissman Were, who's an Olympian, was competing for Kenya at the Paris Olympics, one of the most likable athletes, by the way, in the sprints. And then Rita Jepto got herself in trouble again, so maybe goes to what he was talking about. And when I look at this whole list and then I listen to what you're saying, then I wonder, who's the most responsible person in making sure you do not miss whereabouts? Whose primary responsibility is it?
Yes. It normally say that the principle of strict liability lies with the athlete, that the athlete is responsible for anything that they do within the obligations of an anti-doping program. But at the same time, as an anti-doping organization, we are responsible to make sure that the athlete is well educated, so that then the athlete can be able to make what we call an informed decision. You make an informed decision. So we give you the information you need, we give you the login credentials, we take you through the system, and then we ask you to give us the whereabouts. But we have had some instances where, first of all, athletes, sometimes they don't take it serious at the word go. When we are with them, they can update, they give the information on the platform. Then after some time, probably when they change locations, they are not updating that information, or the timelines that they have been set, because you're supposed to update quarterly, okay? And you are supposed to update 15 days before the beginning of the next quarter. Probably they have not given that information by the deadline that has been put as per the code, or sometimes they have given the information but they have not given information that is sufficient, or they have made probably maybe double entries within the system, you see, and then that one creates what we call non-compliance issues within the system, and therefore they need to be addressed.
And Dennis, what are the repercussions for missing 3 tests in a calendar year? 3 tests over a 12-month period. And how long is this 12-month period? Is it January to December? Is it March to March? Is it June to June? What is the punishment?
Okay, so maybe before I come to that,
yes,
before I forget, I want to add on to what Dr. Arya said and what you asked earlier, the responsibility. Remember, we are doing our best to educate these athletes so that when they are making this decision to miss this test, to fail and update these whereabouts, they are making an informed decision of doping. So they are very lucky indeed that we are even coming to tell them, this is a mistake, don't do it, and they proceed and do it. So the responsibility, they bear the total responsibility in terms of that. To answer your question, for a whereabouts failure to be considered as an anti-doping rule violation, you need a combination of 3. So there are 2 types of whereabouts failures. There is a mistest where you are not found within the 60-minute window. And there is the filing failure where you fail to update your whereabouts within the deadline. That is the first of the beginning of the quarter. And a combination of the 2. So a mistest and a whereabouts failure, it can be 2 mistests, 1 whereabouts failure, 2 whereabouts failures, 1 mistest, or 3 mistests, or 3 whereabouts failures within a 12-month period. Now, where does the 12 months begin? It begins from your first failure. If you have a mistest in April, we start counting the 12 months. So from April then to the next April, you are supposed to not to get more than, if it is 3, it is an anti-doping rule violation.
And what's the sanction?
And the sanction is
minimum of 2 years.
Minimum of 2 years. Yeah. But it also depends. Remember, we usually give these athletes opportunity to explain themselves. But some of them proceed and become cooks and become medical personnel, and they forge documents. If they decide to do that, we do the necessary investigation. It doesn't matter where you will tell us you were treated. If you are treated in Kakuma, we will go to Kakuma to make sure that indeed this is our genuine document.
Okay,
yes,
so
we're
talking to the right people because compliance, they deal with compliance. Yes. Now, of the list that you have read, there's a player who has played 2 days for the national team.
Yes.
Now, what happens? Because you put him, you mentioned that he had violated one of your rules. So what happens now? What happens when player A has gone against the doping violations of Kenya and of WADA?
Yeah.
So what is the next step? Because he's playing.
Yes.
And the others have been playing.
Yes. So basically, once we compile, they become 3 the way Dennis has explained. And then we put you on what we call provisional suspension. Provisional suspension, then that means within that period of time, we are taking your case to the sports tribunal and we ask you not to participate in sports at that time. Now, for that particular kind of doping, you know, whereabouts failure, it's doping, it's categorized as doping. When we put you on provisional suspension, you may want to ignore that provisional suspension, or you may want to go to the tribunal, back to the tribunal of court or court of arbitration of sports, and ask the court to suspend that provision. In such circumstances, you may be allowed to play, okay? But then at the point whereby the tribunal pronounces itself in terms of giving you a sanction, you will be pronounced ineligible not to participate in sports for the period of time from the time the court pronounces itself. Then that means the period of time which you will have been out on provisional suspension will not count at that point in time. If you decide as an athlete that you've been placed on provisional suspension and therefore you will adhere to that call and stay out, when the court pronounces itself, the period which you've stayed out will count. For example, if you stayed out for 6 months and the provision and the period of ineligibility is 2 years, then it becomes 1.5. You will stay out for now 1.5 years. That only applies on specific anti-doping rule violations. Okay, but when it comes to presence of a prohibited substance, right, which is an anti-doping rule violation, there's a substance called non-specified substance. Non-specified substance, the code says that these are substances which an athlete will not have any explanation as to why there was no intent of doping, okay? Such kind of substance, if we put you on provisional suspension, you are not allowed to participate in sports at that point in time. That's for non-specified substance. For specified substance, then there can be, and for specified substance and any other anti-doping rule violation, then you might decide to ignore the provisional suspension. But as I said, at the point in time the court is pronouncing you ineligible, then you will serve the entire period that you've been given for that sanction.
So for clarification, yes, the likes of Rooney, the likes of Benson, the guys who are playing yet, it's because they are at SDT.
Yes.
And I'm assuming you guys also go to SDT to defend your case.
Yes.
Then once it's decided,
yes,
and it's decided for or against, then the ban either starts there or doesn't start there.
Yes.
And this ban cuts across worldwide. I'm trying to remove all these gray areas that people have been arguing. Okay, so it's Adak, but so for example, Rooney plays in Norway.
Yes.
So if that case is decided,
yes,
that ban is a cross-board.
It's a cross-board. This is an international standard. This is an international standard for testing and investigation. This is an international standard for that. So international standard is applied worldwide, across the board, worldwide, globally.
Now, I want to bring your attention to one of the Kenyans who went to CAS, the Court of Arbitration now. Festus Langat, who's based in the US, went there. And his lawyer, this is what his lawyer said. He said, it seems Adak is on a campaign to ruin the lives of many athletes, including Festus, to try and show WADA it is tough on doping and avoid non-compliance. But in the process, they are the ones failing to follow the rules. So clearly, he was feeling like this was going too far. I don't know what your response is as Adak.
Actually, the facts will come out by the end of the case, because for us, we strictly implement the international standards as stipulated, and also the provisions of the code is very, very clear on whereabouts failures. Festas violated the whereabouts failure as an anti-doping rule violation. We took that case. Of course, we went through the process as stipulated in the code. We took that case to the tribunal, the sports tribunal, but Festas failed, infringed, and then therefore he went to the Court of Arbitration of Sports, and the Court of Arbitration of Sports has pronounced itself on that matter, lifted that suspension. We respect the decision of the Court of Arbitration of Sports as at now, but that has not removed the anti-doping rule violation, because the sports tribunal is still prosecuting the matter. Okay, yes. So the matter is going on. We will not want to discuss the merits and demerits of the case, because it will be prejudiced for now. But we are looking forward to the conclusion of the case. What I could just say is that Adak will professionally follow the stipulations of the code and present a case at the tribunal. And let's see what happens. Probably what we are saying is that we will provide an opportunity for the rules of natural justice to prevail at that point in time.
Yeah.
Yes, Dennis.
Yes, if I may add, there is something very important you've asked, like the athletes who are now participating, what happens? Remember, the options of that provision, following that provisional suspension, the importance of it is that during this period that your case is ongoing, you have been told not to participate. If you're 100% sure that you're innocent, because we try to protect the clean athlete. So if you're a clean athlete, then proceed and participate, because then you are sure that the case will end in your favor. But remember, there is a consequence of this participation. Once you have been found liable, all the results that you accrued during this period of suspension are disqualified. And that is why we involve the federation as well. So, for example, it is a football player. They have been suspended. FKF is notified. So, when they are making a decision of including this person in a national team per se, they should know the consequences that will follow if this person is found guilty and he played in a match while he was suspended. So it has consequences.
You're frowning, Elijah. Yeah. Ask your question.
Yeah, because when you say the results will be suspended, when it's athletics, it's just an individual result.
Yes.
When it's a team sport, are you trying to say that potentially our result against Grenada
would be in trouble? Yes.
Yeah, because he played.
Yes, he would be in trouble.
Rooney played.
Is that what you mean, Dennis?
Is that what you're trying to say? If and hypothetically speaking.
Remember, yes, what I mean and what I am saying is this person participating,
yes,
it has consequences. The code says those results need to be disqualified. FKF is a signatory. FIFA is also a signatory. They also follow the anti-doping rules. They have their procedures of conducting that disqualification. If it's a matter of removing points, that is their decision to make. However, that decision, for that specific person, it needs to be disqualified.
Actually, we are now getting into discussions with the federations at the moment,
yes,
and telling them for their own good, please let them not allow these athletes to participate in these competitions, because then at the end of the day, if they are found guilty of an anti-doping rule violations, then the credibility of that league that they are trying to organize will be in question at that point, because then we will disqualify the results of those leagues, and the accolades to those teams might go to other teams. So I don't know what kind of chaotic situation will be there at the end of the league if we find such kind of situations.
Yes, because and for me this is not the first time you are provisionally suspending players from different disciplines.
Yeah, sure.
It's not the first time. I remember last year you released a whole list that cut across the local basketball league. It had rugby. It had football. There were so many players, but the same weekend, we still saw the players playing. So is it that the teams are naive? You don't talk to the teams, you only talk to the players? Is it that the federations also are liable? They're just looking aside and just saying, keep on, keep on.
I think that it's a situation of probably federation ignoring the provisions, because federations have signed to our rules. Our rules are very clear. The Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya, Adak rules are very clear on this. And that's why we have come out as Adak to speak to Kenyans and to speak to all the sports fraternity. And of course, we have also started conversations with the federations. We have written to federations about some of these issues, so that then they can enforce these rules. And also, because federations have signed to our rules, we are conducting what we call compliance audits to these federations. And if we find that federations are not compliant to the Adak rules, we have the powers under the Anti-Doping Act to declare a federation non-compliant to anti-doping, and that has consequences in the running of the federation moving forward. So we are just asking them to be careful and to do the right thing.
So in conclusion, so that we remove, we've tiptoed around this, is we just wanted a bit of clarification to Kenyans.
Yes.
That people are taught about whereabouts.
Yes.
The RTP pool, the registered testing pool, everyone who's there is sufficiently informed.
Correct.
That the various teams are sufficiently informed about the implications and the ramifications of not adhering to the Adak rules.
Yes.
And also maybe just to confirm, when it comes to the testing pools, because I know AIU has the testing pool, especially of the Kenyan athletes.
Yes.
But then underneath that, Adak now comes with its own pool.
Yes.
And at times you can be in both.
No, you can.
You're either in this one or in this one.
Yes, you can either.
So you are either in the AIU pool, which
Yes.
is normally, we would say, for most of our athletes from athletics.
Yes, yes.
And then for your football and stuff, most of them would fall under Adak.
Yes, not necessarily, because international federations,
Yes.
they are also anti-doping organizations.
Yes.
They can also perform the functions like what Adak is doing, but then for them they perform it across the globe, because then they have
Yes.
affiliations across the globe. For example, World Athletics is an international federation. It's just that they have created a unit called Athletics Integrity Unit within World Athletics, which performs that function of anti-doping. Now, for them, they select athletes to be in their registered testing pool, okay? So we collaborate with them so that then when they select that athlete to be in their registered testing pool, we don't select ourselves, so we leave that athlete to be at that level. Those ones become international level athletes. Then national level athletes under that category, then those who are performing well, then they become part of what is in our registered testing pool. So because we don't want duplication where AIU is appearing
and you are appearing. But you do collaborations a lot.
We do a lot of collaboration.
When I was reading about Albert Correll today, I saw all those who are done under Adak, all the tests that were done under Adak.
Yes.
And I'm almost picked to ask a question about that, because he had 3 tests within 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Yes.
So is that when you guys really going into something? Is it where we think there's something and you keep hitting at the same door? I don't know whether you're allowed to share those things.
I can answer that.
Yes.
Not on that specific case, but this is how we deal even with the athlete biological passport.
Yes.
Whenever you see Adak or an anti-doping organization coming after an athlete at a very specific time, this is because it is an informed decision based on the parameters of that athlete.
Yes.
That is why you will find this athlete actively avoiding testing.
Yes.
So they know that if I will be tested at this point in time, it will definitely turn positive. And that is what we are looking for. So if you find either Adak or an anti-doping organization coming up with tests maybe within a 3-week period,
yes,
and then there's 3 missed tests, that was not coincidental. That was very intentional of this athlete to avoid testing.
Yeah, because sometimes experts tell us, go for this athlete tomorrow at 9.
Yes.
Because then they have looked at the parameters and say these parameters might be at that threshold level by this particular time, because this is a biological process. When you inject any prohibited substance, then it has to go through a process for it to produce the biomarker. So they look at the maturity of the biomarkers, and we are informed accordingly.
Just to explain what I was asking. Now, they tested him on the 3rd of October, 13th of October, 21st of October. That's why I thought that felt like there was something. When you go to Ruth Chemngetich case, the world record holder, there was, I think, 6 tests within a 3-week period. So I just wanted to know whether, is that informed by something? But then I understand there's a lot of science. And you guys do a lot of investigation and a lot of, you involve the biggest organizations in this country as far as looking for information is concerned.
Yes, we have a wider net, and we are government, and we involve all government agencies that are involved in this, so that they can support us in looking for information. So there's a lot of intelligence gathering that is going on out there. We have a wide network of intelligence people who are giving us information. So once we suspect you of having doped, or we have seen anything close to that range, we will come knocking at your door just to get the sample and confirm the same. Yeah.
Now, of course, we have been, now this is the latest case. Plenty of our athletes have been found to have doped, not running clean. And of course, over the past few years, there have been quite a lot who have been announced to have used other substances, illegal substances.
Yes.
Now, where are we right now, as of now? I know we are compliant, at least now in terms of the fans, we are okay. But in terms of the sport itself, are we at a point where getting more numbers is a good sign that Adak is working, and we are really getting the culprits? Or is it a cause of alarm also because we are getting high numbers? That means also doping is really taking place.
I think you remember, I think around 2022, 23, when World Athletics came knocking and saying there are so many Kenyans coming up, and doping cases are rising in the country. And Kenya has been categorized in category A, and therefore there is high propensity of doping in the country, and then government committed resources for an enhanced anti-doping program in the country. And when we postulated that, we said that when we begin undertaking this enhanced program, the numbers of doping cases will rise, because then we have widened the net of catching cheats, because then the doping, anti-doping tests now became many of them. And therefore, we looked at that and said probably within a 5-7 year period, the curve will rise to some point, then it will flatten, then probably it will start coming down. In terms of presence of prohibited substances, we've seen the curve rise, and it's almost flattening. The only bit that has made the curve to a bit rise is whereabouts issues, which now that we are talking about it, it will flatten and start coming down. So we are looking at a situation where we are going to stabilize in terms of this, because then our athletes will now be informed. They have started doing the right thing. They have started calling us. They have started getting concerned about this. They are taking care of themselves now. And also those who surround this athlete within the ecosystem, we are now supporting these athletes. This fight is now not an Adak's fight, because at the beginning it used to be an Adak's fight. Now this fight is back in the village, back in the communities, back in the sport, so that the sport itself can now invigorate the fight and support us, so that then we can have a positive influence on these athletes. So I'm very confident, and of course Adak is very confident, that at some point very soon the curve will start flattening and coming down to the level where now the whole world will be confident in us. It has been demonstrated in many international athletes who have now gone out to participate in sports. You've seen 2024 Olympics, we took a clean team to the Olympics. We have seen the World Championships and many other teams that we have taken out. We have scrutinized and taken a clean team outside. That actually shows that there is good work that is going on, and we are fruitful and making sure that at the end of the day, the whole world will see that Kenya has the natural talent, and we are exposing that talent to the world. That is natural. Yeah.
Dennis, I'd like your final word to be about the fact that we are off the watchdog list by WADA. I'd like you to say what that means for Adak and what it means for Kenya.
Okay, thank you, Okabi. So, coming out of the watch list is only the beginning, I would say. It is the beginning of a very stringent, a very accurate, a very comprehensive anti-doping program. What made us go into the watch list at first is implementing the World Anti-Doping Code is not an easy task. I can tell you that 90 to 95% of the anti-doping organizations around the world who are audited by WADA go into that compliance procedure. So coming out of it, it means that we've come out stronger. We've come out with more policies, more procedures. It means now that you've even seen the rise in these whereabout failure cases. That is because Adak is following the code to the book. That we are leaving no stone unturned. So for all the dopers and all the persons aiding and abetting out there, I would say that this is more of an end of the road for them. For us coming out of that compliance procedure, compliant.
Well, end of the road for dopers, for cheats as far as Kenyan sport is concerned. Not athletics, Kenyan sport. So that includes your rugby, your football, your basketball, your kabaddi, your every sport. That maybe has been the main message of Whereabouts message tonight. Our goal was to confirm to you and to let you know what are Whereabouts, what are Whereabouts failure, what are the repercussions, who are the athletes who are involved in this? And I hope you've understood it better. I hope when you next hear there's a problem, then you're able to sit there and figure out and understand exactly where this is coming from. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us and shedding light on this topic, which has had so many answers, so many questions about it, and hopefully our athletes now understand exactly what we mean. Before we go away, maybe just a shot of the weekend just to see one of those pictures that our very own Chris Omolo was out, up and about. I think